Who likes to travel? Who likes to travel and sketch? Well, all of us mostly. I'm just going to share with you my own sort of story around travel and sketching. And I'm just going to tell you a little story here and there over sort of years of travel and sketching. Last year, I did 21 trips outside Singapore. This year, so far, 6 trips. I think I'm on the verge of breaking last year's. I'm off to Taiwan this Sunday, so let's see. Just got back from Pattaya yesterday. But yesterday was more CSR, some little work with orphanages and things like that. But this coming week will be more sketching, so a little bit more art. Anyway, so I think some of the thoughts that I go through when I'm sketching, I'm just going to share with you, and then we kind of meander a little bit and tell a bit of story. Okay, so this is a cover of my sketchbook from Japan earlier this year in January when we went. I snowboard, so family and myself, we went skiing, snowboarding, and you will see that I like to stick stuff and then basically on the sketchbook and so on. This is a sketch from Kluang when Chan Kirk organized a Kluang trip for a few days. We went to see the pineapple fields and so on. This is based on a one-line drawing. So one of the things that I would like to encourage people to do is basically think about how to get going on your sketchbook, right? Sometimes you have an empty sketchbook and you go to a new place and you're like, okay, how am I going to start? I'm so scared because it's all, how like empty sketchbook, right? So my suggestion is just break it in. There are 2 ways to do this. One is you turn to the last page of your sketchbook and do a swatch of colors. So if you bring a palette of 16 colors, then just swatch the 16 color. Okay, that you break it in. It's like a new ship on the shore that's about to go sailing. Sometimes you take the champagne bottle and you smash it, right? Purposely scratching the boat. Why? Because now it's scratched, so it's okay if you scratch more, right? It's just scratch it. So in a way that you want to break in a new sketchbook, that's how you could do it. The other way is to do a one-line sketch, which is what I did here. A one-line meaning you just put a pen down and don't finish until you finish the drawing. And just draw, right? So you could see that it's all one line. It's a lot of mistake, but there's certain fluidity, a certain freeness to just basically sketching with a one line. Because then in your mind, you're like, sure, got mistake. With mistake, it's okay. And just go until it's finished, right? So you can draw this in 5 minutes or maybe less than 10 minutes, And what you do is if you don't know what you're doing, you just stop and look and then go back and finish the line, right? And once you finish, then you slop in all the colors. So in this case, basically, I think it's very enjoyable when your sketch is loose, free, and it starts the sketchbook off in that sense. So the one line. Okay, so I also say that it's better than taking a photo because if you take a photo, it's like you snap and chances are you're not going to remember it. How many photos that you have done traveling in your phone that you look at on a regular basis? Rare. Something. Well, maybe occasionally you might remember there's a photograph, but a sketch imprint in your memory because you look at it for 30 minutes or 20 minutes, right? A photo is 2 seconds. The memory storage is not going to be very strong. So years to come, you probably forget the photo, but you still remember the sketch, right? And I still remember who was sitting next to me on my left, what I was drinking, Coca-Cola. What was in front of me, motorbike passing through, I can almost smell the space and so on and so forth, right? That's the beauty of it. And also it's about emotions. And oftentimes, a photo only what you see. But when you are able to feel the place or you are sketching part of your emotion, you are imprinting part of emotion. Those are ski boots, by the way, for those people who don't ski. Ski boots are very hard. I don't ski anymore, part of the reason because the boots are too hard. Snowboards, boots are soft and nice and a bit fluffy because you use your ankle. But ski boots are hard, so you go like robot, clock, 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 right? So these are my friends and my wife's ski boots, and they were parked outside, just as you enter the apartment. And we were staying in an apartment, so it was kind of like a nice little doodle to capture the little memory of skiing and the snow sports experience, so to speak. Most of my sketches doesn't take more than 40 minutes. Line work for me is quite straightforward. Over the years, my line has gotten a little bit more accurate, less error. Still full of errors, but I can't let it go. I don't use eraser, so if you use pencil, I'll say throw away the eraser. Just keep going. If you really want to learn to avoid mistake, if you use a pencil, go light, do light line. And the second time you go around, more confident on where is the correct line, you go harder, right? And in the same way, if you use ink, you can draw thin line, and when you're very, very sure, you go thick, right? So you can do a few lines, a few rounds, so to speak. Those are little tricks that you can learn in order to avoid using eraser or liquid paper, God forbid, right? And travel light. There's no real reason to travel with 1 ton of art material. I know all of us like to buy colors. You know, we go to Art Friend or we go to Straits, and guess what? We'll be spending money on Daniel Smith, on all the colors, and every color we buy is like buying candies, right? All you need actually is just 6 colors, right? And all the other colors can be, mixed, so to speak. And even I would just say carry 2 yellow, 2 red, 2 blue. That's enough. But okay, I carry about 24 colors these days, and those are the colors I carry. I carry a bottle of ink. I don't even carry the full bottle. I pour it into a container like a shampoo holder or whatever, and that's what I carry with. And typically using a pen or pencil, water brush. If not water brush, it's just a couple of brushes. That's it. Normally a size 6 and a size 8. Those are 2, or even if it's a size 6 and a size 2, if you want to sketch smaller, right? But the whole idea is to simplify your kit. And the more simplified your kit is, the more often you're going to use it, right? So I have something called a travel kit. This is what I carry, basically. You can see here. Simplicity is actually very, very important. Of course, when you travel, you want to get going. So one of the ways to sketch an aeroplane, right? Just take a photo. If you don't have time as you board, it's like, okay, maybe not enough time. Take a photo of it and then sketch on the plane, right? Or maybe if you have a bit of time, just draw a few of the lines, and the rest you can fill in when you are, arrive at destination or on the plane. Just finish up in terms of the lines. As you notice, a lot of the sketch, like Patrick this morning, or maybe a lot of us, we like to put notes down. So it's actually more like a diary than a piece of art, right? I don't think, when you're so focused on creating a piece of art, it stops you from being yourself. So my suggestion is just relax, cool, jot down your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, because that is also a part of capturing travel, right? And when you're traveling, you want to be able to kind of remember for years to come all the little sort of things that your eyes may have seen, or when your ears have heard, or your nose has smelled, and those things bring back memory that's very deep, as opposed to, like, again, a photo. A photo doesn't tell much because you probably have forgotten after a little while. So, as much as you can just put down your thoughts, your memory, those helps a lot. And then the real, the trick is to see deeper. See deeper meaning, I always say that artists see more. So for example, I like to tell this story of hard and soft, edges. If you look at the shadows on the ground, where the light hits, you can see that some of the shadow edges are sharper and then some are softer. And also, if you look at shadows as they land on the surface, and if you lift your object up and down, you will see that the shadow becomes softer as the object lifts further, right? Things like that. So if you can see tiny detail of little things, and it's only a sketcher who's trying to represent what you're seeing, then you're seeing more. And as you see more, you notice that there are things that you didn't appreciate before, and then suddenly you could appreciate. My daughter, when she was 8, we were sketching at Bukit Paso, and then the Majestic Hotel then had a little sort of lamp and then some red pipe that comes down. And the next week, there was an exhibition of all the urban sketches, sketches of the Majestic Hotel. And my daughter was saying, oh, this auntie or this sketcher didn't put down this lamp and didn't put this. I said, how do you know? She said, oh, because I sketched it. She was 8. It's like, and I know there's a lamp here and then there's a pipe here, and that it was not in that sketch. She was like, oh, how come she missed these things? So the point is that in the same way, when you travel sketch, you will see more. and you do want to see more. Otherwise, what's the point of traveling and then you don't see anything? A lot of people go there, oh, okay, I was here, take a photo, a selfie, and then they walk away, and then years later, all they remember was that one selfie. They don't see anything. You don't see, deep. You don't see much. You don't have the experience. So in some way, the idea is to see more, right? One of the little tricks, and this is what you can do, is to look at icons of the city or icons of the country. I like to do icons. Immediately when you see this balloon dog, you would remember where this came from, right? Where did this come from? Okay, it's renovated, and then, anyway, the Cathay Handy Road, right? Sure. But I think most of us would say Singapore Merlion, okay? But what about the secondary icons? Icons that are maybe not so direct, but maybe a bit less direct, a little bit also memorable, but it could be a little bit more attached to secondary or tertiary, not so famous kind of places, right? Now, one of the things you can do is you go to Google and say icons of Singapore, icons of Bangkok, icons of London, and so on and so forth, right? So this is an example of icons of Bangkok. I kind of combine two things. One is to use one line drawing for each of the icon. The other one is to know what are the icons of Bangkok. So when you see, for example, the big swing, the one in the center, the swing, and when you actually go and see, Teck, I've seen the big swing. Or you've seen, or you ate your first mango sticky rice when you're in Bangkok, right? Or when you see okay, there's no elephant anymore in Bangkok, but there's a lot of elephant statues everywhere, right? So, but of course, when you first time you see the Thai flag or the tuk-tuk, for example, all of these are sort of icons. And one of the ways I like to break my new sketchbook is to think of the place I'm going, do some research, and then fill one page of one line icons, and just to get myself into the, thinking about the city I'm visiting. I used to do it a lot more. Now I'm a little bit less because I've done Bangkok many times, so I won't, not so much fun doing Bangkok all the time. So in some ways, this is one way to get into a city. I try to do one sketchbook per city per trip if I can. So, I like Japan, I have one whole sketchbook for Japan this year. I have Kluang with Chankek, again the whole sketchbook, and so on. So I have a box with all my sketchbook. My sketchbook is considered done when I've torn it apart, scanned them. So after I scan, the final output digital scan is the final product. Actually, the actual sketch itself is kind of secondary, but the stuff that I scan is much more important to me. All right. So one way is research. You can try it on your phone now. Let's say Google, you go to Google, and then in your search you say, let's say Tokyo icons, right? And you will find in the image section all kinds of icons you can look for in that city or country, depending on where you're going. This is the same with my London sketch. Obvious stuff about London, the cab, the bridge, the Big Ben, and so on and so forth, right? All this kind of get you into thinking about London. Okay, it's a bit cliche, I know, but you're trying to kind of tell a story. So in some ways, you can also cut this out and stick. Oh no, don't cut out, okay. But you can actually draw a little bit, and then you can draw your thoughts next to it. Let's say you saw the Big Ben, then you draw a Big Ben, and then you can say, okay, I visited Big Ben today. It didn't look so big as I imagined it to be, and I'm actually quite happy being here, or I'm not so happy being here, whatever the feeling is. So you kind of associate emotions with the visual, with whatever you're seeing as well. Somehow there's so many Japanese for whatever reason. When I'm here, this is London. It didn't feel like London. It feels like Japan. Whatever you're experiencing, but the idea is that you're capturing your travel in your thoughts, in your image, as well as with all your faculty. I think humans tend to become very abstract, and in the abstraction of life, you are detached. When you're detached, it's easy to get into depression. All right, so let me explain. In the old days, right, there are some people who are farmers, so they plant potato. At the end of the harvest, they harvest, and then they cook the potato, and then they enjoy the potato that they plant. Very physical. It's touch, it's smell, it's senses of the tongue, it's taste, it's everything that's to do with how you are as a human being. With the 5 faculties that are given to you, you experience the world, right? But there are people who are potato farmers, traders. So they come around, buy the potato from the farmer, and then go to the next village and sell it, right? They probably make more money than the farmer, but a little bit detached from the ground, still touch the potato. There's something called the potato futures trader. You heard of these people? They make the most money. Sometimes they sit in Chicago, right? And they buy and sell futures potato that has not been planted, right? 2026 harvest, 2027 harvest. And they make probably the most money because they don't taste and smell the potato. But their job is very dissatisfied, other than the fact that they make the most money. but they are very detached from the potato. They probably never smell or taste the potato. So the work is very abstract, right? So in some way, the people who make most money usually are the one who is most abstract. And then the people who are least abstract, right, more real, more tangible, are the people who probably make less money, but I would say happier and less depressed. And the depressed and suicide probably is higher than this. Anyway, it's just a conjecture. It probably requires some study, but I'm just making this up. But the same idea is when you're traveling, you do not want to just take a photo and walk away because that's very abstract, right? Because it's sitting in digital pixel in your photo in your phone, but there's nothing to feel or sense or experience, right? So the more you use your senses to enjoy the place, the more happier you will be. This is quite natural, it's how we are built. So I think even as we bankers, lawyers, accountant, whatever you are, ex-consultant, I know quite a few, you want to experience life in the less abstract kind of way, in a more experiential kind of way, okay? And travel is beautiful because it's really about breaking down barriers, right? Breaking down barriers of misunderstanding. And Mark Twain says it best. I can't say it better than this. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And I think oftentimes we think we need to have 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, whatever it is to sit down and draw something, right? I was with friends and families in front of the Hagia Sophia when you had such a grand thing, and I had a little sketchbook with me. It's a 6-inch by 6-inch size sketchbook, very small. I didn't want to have the opportunity pass because I was with friends and family who doesn't sketch. So in goes the one-line doodle, right? It's probably about 5 minutes, and then the color was probably put in another 5 minutes, so it's 10 minutes, and you kind of move on from there. It's not perfect, it's not ideal, but you know what? I have many, many good sensing of that experience, right? And so by doing something like this and on the spot, in this case, it was an urban sketch. Well, urban sketch, but it's not urban painting, right? So it's very loose, it's very, very fun, it's just, on the spot. That makes it travel. It makes it memorable for me. I don't think I can sell this as a painting and I don't really care, but that's not the intention. The intention is that it's for me, right? And I think all of us can do it in that kind of speed if you let go of a bit of quality, right? And memory, again, sometimes you can take a photo, of course you can be remembering, but you remember the COVID days where you have to test when you travel? We were up in KL seeing some family, and my daughter was being tested at Mediron, which is a clinic next to the hotel. And so that, when she was being tested, I was just doodling. And you remember COVID, okay, not a very good experience and not a good memory for all of us, clearly. But again, it's a memory nevertheless. And and little things like whatever catches your fancy could be things that you remember, okay? A photograph is a moment, but a sketch can be remembered much, much longer. Okay, I'm going to go through a series of my own sketch and just do a bit of commentary for each of those. These are from Tree Sketchbook. 2019 Africa is my first one that I'll show you. So you don't need colors. All you need is a sketchbook and maybe a pen or pencil. Right, lines will do. Ben on the left was the musician as well as a chef. So we went to Tanzania, the Serengeti, and in the camp, we lived in literally a camp. And so for about 5 nights, we stay in the camp and then we go out, see the animals, come back to the camp. And in the camp, there's probably about like 8 or 9 workers. They are chefs, they are guards, they are porters, they are everything, right? So, again, he doubled up as a singer, even though he was a chef, okay? And then on the right, you see the typical acacia tree, the wildebeest, which was plentiful, and so on. I'm quite easy with my doodle. I just go and I'll just, usually I think in values. So, and values is simple. You just think in, 5 steps value, right? Paper white, darkest dark, somewhere in the middle, and then 2 more to, break down the value of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And that's kind of enough, more or less for a pen. And that could get you anywhere. You don't even, so in other words, you could travel literally, a sketchbook. I think in this case it's a Hahnemuller A5 190 gram GSM sketchbook. It's a watercolor sketchbook, but I didn't use color. And a pen. I mean, you can't beat that, right? So again, you could draw all the other animals too. Ostrich. I discovered that ostrich never roam alone. They are always in pair. How lovely. And of course the grey heron, which is quite, you can see quite a lot of that. All the great birds in Africa. And the jeep that we were on, so you could actually go up there and then observe all the animals, unless there's like a lion or cheetah nearby. They could climb up, but anyway, that didn't happen. But more or less, you could kind of hide inside and then watch and observe all the animals from the top. And we saw plenty of animals. The only animal that we didn't see was rhino. Apparently, rhino don't produce fast enough and they're dying. And at one point, they were poached. So we saw all the other animals, but rhino. So if you go to Africa, rhino would be the hardest to spot. And that's one of the things that we learned. You don't have to draw everything in the page. We saw a baby zebra following a mom. And to me, it was like, ooh, all this space, right? Just leave it. And it's a memory because I was also too lazy. I had only 5 minutes, so I kind of quickly sketched the 2 zebra and leave the whole page white. I wanted to write some story about my experience, but I didn't do it, so it ended up being white. Birds, and on the left, that one was my photograph. I took a photograph of it and I sketched from my photograph. And you see a lot of Shrek, and it's lovely to see all the birds in Africa. I think one of the things that we learned about Africa was that it wasn't just hot, it was cold. We went during the summer time, and it turned up that Africa is in winter, and it was actually quite cold. We brought all our summer clothing. Actually, it was not sufficient. We had to lay up because the temperature was actually quite low. And lots of vouchers, and we discovered voucher were the rubbish dump collector of safari. So when there are carcasses, they clean it up. So actually, they are very good part of the ecosystem. They are actually a necessary and very good part, because without it, there'll be more germs, there'll be more sort of dirt. But with it, all the carcasses are all cleaned up, right? And baboons were cleaning each other, picking up all the insects and whatnot in that sense. Lots of good memory, I would say. So I think from a sketchbook perspective, you really don't need colors. You can make do with just lines, right? If you really don't want to carry anything, you want to be quick, even lines and all that will do. And then you can describe your feelings. You can describe, your experiences that when you see them. Taipei 2019. Food, okay? I think all of us like to sketch food. The problem with food is that there are variety and there's, it gets cold if you sketch it first, right? So my suggestion is that artists should never go hungry. You agree? So take a photo and then eat first. Then only sketch from a photograph while your family is enjoying dessert or something, right? Those of you who went sketching with me knows that actually I don't believe in sketching food live, because like I said, artists should never go hungry, literally. So eat first, and then from the photograph, make sure you take enough photograph and enough references, and then you can, and how do you sort of picture it? Well, one is take care of the shadows, right? Shadows and shape. So in other words, when you sketch food, think of structures like cube or circle or whatever it is, and watch out where the shadows are, and make sure when you use shadow to create a three-dimensional sense of the drawing. That's kind of it. So there's shadow underneath the container, shadows under the plate, and so on. Those will create a three-dimensional sense of the sketch. Temple, mosque, places of worship is also very, very easy to anchor. And I do like to sketch all the places of worship, the churches, the mosques, the temples, and so on. Because it does talk about like what is the history of the place, the culture, the religious practices, and so on. And then you can talk to people who go and say, oh, so what are you doing? What are you here to wish for? Having a baby or better exam results or whatever it is that people do, right? And you kind of get to know and have a chance to talk to people as well. And as you sketch, right? This one clearly took a little bit longer, maybe closer to 45 minutes to do. But yeah, and I didn't do everything on site either, so maybe about half, and the other one I finished in hotel, right? But the whole idea is that, yeah, you get to talk to people and experience stories. I think if you listen to Patrick this morning, you know that to me, like him, stories are equally important. And I have lots of story for every time. From when I was sketching in Bangkok, someone offered me a seat in Chinatown and then offered me a Coke, all without having, and I'm like, oh, thank you very much. And then I normally carry a bunch of postcards and I give my postcards. And so you create connections with people of the land, right? So I encourage you all, don't think that, oh, I'm not an artist, I'm not good enough. Well, it's okay. It's not about how good or not. It's the fact that you've done something and you have your little sketch, make some prints, and you give it away to give connection with people. And that's the story. And it's about you, it's about them, it's about having a connection, shared connection in this space, right? Sometimes I simplified my sketch to, just one dark shape. You could see that in this case, the purple, obviously, if you look at the scene, it won't be one purple patch, okay? There'll be many colors. But you could, for example, think or simplify your design. And those of you in the morning that attended the Uki's demo, you know that he did a one shade across, right? So that's not a new recipe. I mean, in art, that's used quite common. In this case, I just used one purple to do the backdrop and all the light colors to represent objects in the light under the sun directly. They are all direct colors, the yellow, the green, the red, whatever it is, they are fresh colors. The one in the shadows is just one piece to kind of separate light and dark, right, so to speak. Simple recipe. And also I want to tell you that when you travel sketch, have in your mind and in your pocket simple recipe like this. Because you don't want to go and then you don't really have a recipe and then you start to do like, and it becomes very messy because you're trying to do the window, you're trying to do a door, you're trying to do a cat, you're trying to do a dog. It's too much, right? So instead, you need to think, okay, my recipe this time around is pencil, one dark shape in shadow, and then maybe a few dots or splotches of bright color, right? Simplify it down to that level. And then you can then attack this in about 30 minutes. And that's it. Don't have to worry about too much about, complex recipe that you have. Okay, simplify your recipe. That's one. Two, having a recipe allows you to improve the next time. You use your recipe this time, and you use the recipe second time, third time, fourth time, and then you start to observe your own recipe. What works with your recipe? What didn't work with your recipe? And because you're standard with your recipe, you have a chance to observe and tweak your own recipe. Think recipe so that you have a chance to improve it. Does that make sense? So you are a production machine because when you're traveling and you're sketching, you are the sketcher machine, right? Now, if a machine doesn't have a recipe or doesn't have a standard process, every time you use a different process, then there's no chance to improve it. Because every time you use different process, what is there to improve it? Because you don't really have a process. But if you have a process that you go and you repeat the process, you can kind of step out of your own self and think, what did I do differently this time? Did it work? Did it not work? And you keep the good one, you throw away the bad one. And anyway, there's no bad. It's just that you learn something new if you do something wrong, because there's no such thing as wrong. It's just an experience. So keep your recipe and keep going and repeat, okay? I like to draw bottles because bottles have reflections and it allows me to use negative shape and also highlights and so on. I think in this case, I don't use pencil line. It's just pure watercolor going, right? So it's all hard edges mostly. And to me, every bar organize their bottle differently. So I can kind of, okay, I don't drink. I somehow make you think that I'm an alcoholic. The alcoholic in the house, there's only two of us, me and my wife, and I'm not the alcoholic. So she's not here. Uh, but we buy a lot of alcohol. So we like to go to bar and then we like to experience, different setting and so on. So again, that is something that you have kind of your favorite angle. Okay, for me, it's drawing this sort of bar bottles sort of scene with nothing else but just the bar counter with just a bottle. You can take something like this for yourself and repeat the process and go to different hotel or different places and sketch something like that, right? So what I'm trying to say is that, like, if you like to sketch shop lots, and the shop lot always looks like a long X and then a smaller part of the X, right? It's an X design, radiating line, but this is smaller and this is longer. Let's say this is your design and this is your go-to. Every time you go to a new place, you will sketch a scene like that. That becomes a recipe. They are different in each city because they are different shop, but the design and the concept will be somewhat similar from this city to the next city to the next city. When you go to a new city, you'll be watching out, where can I sketch with this design, right? So somewhere along the line, you'll find, aha, this place, this spot, give me that X design. So I'm going to plonk myself here for 20 minutes. I'm going to sketch this line, right? Longer X and, short, smarter, still radiating. And of course, the side are different, the color are different and so on. And maybe you decide every time you use one patch of gray and then some bright color, maybe. But that's okay. What I'm saying is that if you start to repeat, you get better at it, and every time you spot something similar, you get better at it, you get better at it, and eventually they all look different, but they are same. And they are same, therefore you can be better faster, right? So that's kind of the idea. So I do this a lot because now I can tell you, I see something like this, I can pretty much hammer this away in about 20 minutes. I get a very nice high contrast, bar looking, glass reflection and all the rest of it. That's kind of like my recipe for bars. It works for me. You find your own recipe. Of course, in Taiwan, everybody look at motorbikes, and I'm also pretty good at transportation. So again, one line drawing. Sometimes, if not, I have a video which is one of the more popular one. It's called the one line drawing, and it was actually a Taiwan scene of an X. Okay, you look it up. We take one line drawing, you find. So again, motorbikes, backdrop, negative shapes. And also sort of an oblique line design. Okay, I got another 8 minutes or so. I'm going to kind of give you a bit longer break. Okay, last sketchbook, Bangkok 2023. I was going to leave my last employment, EY, so I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to maybe write a book. I wrote a book called Bangkok in Ink, and so the sketches here has eventually found its way into the sketchbook, which is a travelogue. So Bangkok in Ink was sort of my last official trip with office, right, colleagues before I left EY. And so, memories, thoughts as I land in Bangkok, what I see, what I observe, post-COVID, my first trip to Bangkok after 3 years, I guess. And just emotions, right? And I was allowing myself to capture my thoughts in words and in sketches. I love a place called Asiatic. Those of you who go Bangkok, there's this place called Asiatic. It's next to Chao Phraya. It's a little place. Used to be all the it's like Boat Quay. They used to be warehouses. Now it's converted to a lot of food, a lot of local design store and so on. Massage, leg massage, whatever. It's kind of like a nice little place for a few hours for lunch, dinner, whatever it is. And it's one of my favorite places. And we observe basking. The two kids on the left, they were basking for school fees, right? So, they did very well. They sang very well. And I sort of just quickly doodle and sketch it in. And again, you see that one of the things you need to do very quickly with figures is proportion and also action. And basically trying to capture the essence of what's happening on the spot in front of you and what they're doing. So hand and so on, right? So Tini and I always say that don't draw all the 5 fingers, but draw a mitten, right? One thumb and then the rest is in. So always, draw in broad summary, if you like. I like street vendor. Everywhere I go, I try to look for street vendor. Bangkok has fantastic street vendor. When they clean it up, I was so sad because Bangkok reduced their street vendor by quite a bit. But you can still find them. They are still not littered everywhere, but at least still available. So in this case, they were next to a school. I was walking around in the morning and I see all these sites and I just like capture, because it's part of a culture of the land, right? Food, street vendor. I don't necessarily eat them. I have a rule: if it's through fire, then I'll consider eating it. If it's not, I try not to eat it. If it's room temperature, clearly I'll not touch it. But usually they are quite cooked or in a boiling soup, then it's fine. And there's lots of stories as well. So the one on the right, a friend of mine, when I was working in UOB, he was my counterpart in Thailand. He's since retired, and he's gotten a tourist sort of license. And he doesn't practice it, but he tried to practice it on me because I visited him. So he took me around and we went to this temple with 5.5 tons of gold Buddha, right? So he's telling me this story where about 500 years ago, I don't really remember, there was a war with the Burmese, I think. So the Thai put this Buddha statue covered with clay to hide it from the enemy. And for whatever reason, it was lost to memory. So nobody knew it was golden. They only saw the clay Buddha and then they kept it in some kampong somewhere off in the north. And about 60, 70 years ago, the temple was so run down, they need to get rid of the statue, and they asked around who would want this statue. So a monk in Bangkok says, okay, we'll take it because it's an old antique statue. So while in the middle of transporting it, they dropped it, boing, and the clay broke, and out comes 5.5 tons of golden Buddha, right? So now it sits in a nice, very expensive looking temple in Bangkok, with all this story to tell as well as golden Buddha. And he was telling me all this story. The other story he told me was the white, someone who was seeking alms. So in my original note in my book, I said this is a monk seeking alms. So my friend corrected me. He said no, it's white. The Buddha, the monk are in saffron. The white are ladies. So I looked carefully in my camera, in my photo which I took as well. I was like, she looks like a man, but actually, yeah, it could be a lady because she's bald. And apparently, a ma jie, which is what is termed for this lay practitioner of a Buddhist practice, is like the highest level that can give to a lay person, and they can also seek alms. And what I learned then was also alms is an opportunity for other people to give. So when you see monk on the street, is that they are offering people the opportunity to give, to do their first kind deed of the day. So it was kind of like a reversal of someone who is in need going up to collect alms, but rather it was an opportunity for others to provide their kindness for the first time for the day. And that changes the way I look at a lot of things, right? And I think it is stories like this that also kind of add to the beauty of your own travel, so to speak. And I think travel really does enrich your life, right? Okay, this is the last story I promise. Okay, so I discovered Thai coffee, and Thai coffee is now right on top of one of the top of my list, other than Ethiopian coffee, which is of course the original where coffee came from. The previous king, he wanted to uplift the farmers of Thailand. So he introduced world-class coffee to all the northern Thai farmers. And they started planting high-quality beans in the northern part of Thailand. It's not in high volume, so they don't really export this. But they have a circular economy. So they ship these beans to Bangkok in little sort of mom and pop roaster. Basically, it's all hand-roasted and handmade coffee and so on, right? So there's this one called Mother Roaster in Chinatown in Yawarat in Thailand, in Bangkok. They source their beans from northern Thailand, and they are able to make this wonderful coffee. And I think you all need to go and experience that. All these small one or two shops, they are not a big chain. They are just two of them. One in Bangkok Center, one in Chinatown, and they source all this from Thailand. And the whole process looks like a lab, a chemistry lab, where they have all this pH or whatever they're measuring before you get a coffee. So if you are a coffee person, go try Thailand coffee, and I had since learned that they are actually, some of the best coffee you can have in that sense. Okay, so right up, more food, right? More food, always. Food is easy to remember, and I think, like I said, lots of shadows under the plate to create the texture, and then create texture using, and lots of writing just to remember what it is. I like statues. You'll find in my YouTube video, I do a lot of statues, sketches. When I walk around in the morning, I go out from my hotel, go sketch statues on Bangkok Street. And yeah, that's it. That's pretty much my sharing. So I just want to say that at the end of the day, you can still use your photograph, nothing wrong with that. But a sketch adds so much more in terms of dimension and depth to your entire experience as a traveler. And before 300 years ago, before there was such thing called camera, artists, I would say scientists were artists. Because all the scientists then who were studying butterflies or animals or plants, they would draw all these by hand, right? So they were very good at it. So scientists were artists. But I think we've kind of lost it today. Most of the scientists use photograph, and I once had a conversation with somebody who was running the PhD department of art, and they say that they pair up their PhD students with the biologists because the biologists can't see certain things, but the artists are trained to observe carefully, and therefore artists can see more. So they pair up an artist with a scientist to see the species that are being studied. Sometimes the species look very similar, but they are not quite the same. So the skills you learn as a traveler, as a sketcher, allows you to see deeper. The problem is some of the sketchers don't see deeper, so that's what I'm trying to change. So see deeper, and therefore by observing more, you sketch more, you see more, your understanding of the world is richer, and therefore you see more things, and hopefully your life is richer as such. So with that, I want to thank you, and thank you very much, and pass the time back to Penny.